this little curly Q I got going
Hi,
on.
Hi, everybody. This is Alex Kolkoski with Prime Media Consulting and the Total BS Show. I am so excited today. I have one of my friends from Michigan, Kristen Krol. She owns Debt Relief Legal Clinic out of Lansing, Michigan, to join us this week. We're diving in some good BS today because she loves to call me on it too. So welcome Kristen to the show. And I just wanted to say, I'm so excited for you to be here. You're one of the best bankruptcy attorneys that I have had the pleasure to work with. And I'm super excited for you to share some of your wisdom and history of owning a business with people that are brand new or people that have been established. Because I truly feel like in today's world, we need to lean on each other a little bit more. And I feel too often people are on as business owners, they're kind of on an island and they're too afraid to say, hey, here's what I'm struggling with. Here's what we're good at. Here's what we're going through. And what we've gotten feedback is what's really nice about this show is it's been being able to kind of open up the onion a little bit and say, okay, I'm going through these issues too, or I have gone through this issue as well. Here's what I did. So you're kind of opening up the minefield for somebody else that might be going through it. So thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully I don't embarrass myself too much, but please let us know a little bit about who you are and how you got started with Debt Relief Legal Clinic.
Ooh, that's a big, long question. All right. Well, it's probably a big, long answer. So I've been practicing since the previous century, which probably dates me quite a bit. But hey, you disappeared. So I graduated high school in 1985. So back in high school, I wanted to become a lawyer. I got a little bit sidetracked at some point and got back on track and started back to school and started off in the Chicagoland area. I was living down there for about 5 years, and I was working in a law firm as a legal secretary. And I decided that I forgot I wanted to be a lawyer, and so I started going back to school. And I eventually moved back home and went to Cooley after I finished up at MSU with my undergrad. And I have been self-employed as a lawyer since 1998. And I'm a wife and mother of 3 boys.
Awesome. So now you go to Tom's Cooley. You've been a lawyer for a while now. What is some of the things that you had to learn when you went from being an attorney to now business owner?
Well, I have been a business owner ever since I finished law school. I made a decision as I was finishing up law school because we got pregnant with our first child while I was in my final year of law school. And I decided, knowing that what the work schedule is for a lot of new lawyers who work at big firms, I didn't want that for myself because they work a ton of hours and I wanted to have time for my family. So I just decided to become self-employed straight out and hang my own shingle. So I have been self-employed business owner the entire time since 1998 and took over this practice in January of 2012. And this practice is solely focused on bankruptcy. Prior to that, my practice, the Krol law firm, handled criminal and abuse and neglect and probate and some real estate and family law kinds of things. And that's it's a lot of stuff for one person to really stay up on. And because of my previous history and knowledge of Dave Ramsey and his principles, I decided that I wanted to just focus on bankruptcy and took over this practice.
Awesome. So you mentioned Dave Ramsey. I'm a big supporter of Dave Ramsey. I love what he does. I know you're a big advocate of him as well. How does that kind of go in with your practice? How do you implement Dave's plan with the clients that you see?
Well, before he stopped doing it, I don't know if most people probably don't know that when the bankruptcy law was changed in 2005, Congress decided that people who file bankruptcy, debtors, should take a pre-bankruptcy filing course to get information about the process, and then take a post-filing course, which is really called a pre-discharge course. It's required to get their discharge in bankruptcy. Back when I took over this practice, I've discovered that Dave Ramsey had taken some of his online video course, scaled it down into about a 2-hour block, and that course was provided to bankruptcy filers as the second required course. So I started sending all of my clients through his course. He stopped doing that when the U.S. trustee changed what they wanted out of the courses several years ago. And because it was really a loss leader for him, he stopped doing it because he didn't want to revamp the whole course to be able to comply with that. So I'm not able to use it now, but I do refer people to his website for resources. One of the ways that I kind of incorporate his system, I guess, his thought process is, I know how much he talks about how much bankruptcy was such a horrible experience for him, and he tells everybody they shouldn't have to go through bankruptcy, just like, you know, he wouldn't want anybody to go through a divorce. So I do my best to make bankruptcy something that people can actually live with, and that it not be such a horrible experience. So that's kind of how I use him.
So people think of bankruptcy like what Dave Ramsey kind of depicts it as. Who are the typical type of people that call you with their needs? And like, is it usually I have like you're my last resort? Are people more proactive when it comes to things? Are like things are creeping up? Like what are the typical calls that you would see or you would hope to see when someone's calling your services?
All of the above. There really isn't a typical bankruptcy client. You get some people that they don't call until they were sued 3 years ago, and they've been getting their checks garnished for the last 3 years because they owe so much money to a creditor, a judgment creditor, that they've just been getting garnished that long. And in Michigan, judgment creditor can get up to 25% of your take-home pay, and take-home pay is calculated without any regard to insurance that comes out by mandate of your employer, or 401k contributions, 401k loans, which you don't really have a choice about. All they do is really consider child support obligations and taxes. And then they get 25% of what's left over, as long as you're over the federal threshold. And for a lot of people, you know, that's a big chunk of their checks. So when I get people that come in and it's been, you know, they say, oh, I've been getting garnished for the last 2.5 years. I'm like, why didn't you come in sooner? And then you have people that are like, you know what, my student loans are going to come due in, you know, 6 months, and I can't make these credit card payments and student loan payments. I'm doing fine with the credit card payments, but I won't be able to. So I just need to dump all this credit card debt so that I can focus on my student loans. So it's kind of the gamut.
Okay. And so when you're generating your business and all that type of stuff, and you've been in business for a couple of days now, as you said before, turn of the century. I mean, how hard was it? How hard was it to find your first few clients, and how did you do that?
So since before Y2K, okay. So back that long ago, a senior attorney told me that I should get into doing court-appointed criminal work because I could get clients that way. That was not actually the case. I got court-appointed clients, and a lot of court-appointed clients wonder if you're actually a real lawyer. So that was super fun. You know, I think probably I started advertising in the yellow pages in like a little tiny ad that, you know, just about anybody can afford, because most of the stuff you couldn't afford. There wasn't really internet back then for this, you know, the kind of advertising I do now. What's the yellow pages? But let's see. Back then, I was sharing space with another attorney law firm, and they would kind of feed cases over to me. That was pretty much how I started getting some cases.
Okay. And so, you know, since Y2K to today, how has the branding and the marketing and that aspect kind of changed And what are you kind of doing now to really grow your business and grow the awareness of your company?
Well, it's all internet for sure. It's all internet. It's Facebook. It's Google. It's soliciting Google reviews from clients.
Right.
I send out questionnaires, feedback forms for clients, and I got a really nice one yesterday in the mail. And that led me to reach out to my client by email and say, "Hey, would you kind of say similar things on my Google page, because really online Google reviews are the new referral
Right.
resource."
Yeah.
And she did. I was surprised because I had sent her a previous request and it had gone unnoticed or something. Maybe she just didn't see it, but she did that yesterday and it was wonderful. And she's a pro bono client. So it's, very rarely I will take a pro bono case. And I did on this one, and it was a bit of a mess. And I fixed it up, and she was, super thankful and grateful. And her case is going to be fine now. But it's sometimes you just can't even get people who pay you for your services to do a nice Google review.
Right.
But plenty do. They're few and far between, but I love every one of them that I get. So it's really all about the internet, in my opinion. There's a newsletter, there's email marketing that I do as well to inform clients, because there's a lot of stuff on the internet that people can read that
Yeah.
may or may not be true or
Whoa.
accurate.
Whoa. You're saying that the internet might not be 100% real?
Well, even though Abraham Lincoln said, what's on the internet is true,
That's true.
right? Yeah, no, not everything is accurate. Plus, there's some stuff out there that's really more state specific. You have to be really careful because bankruptcy is federal, but it's also state specific. It has some state specific issues that need to be addressed by an attorney in that particular state. So you can't just take everything as true. But having an informed client or potential client who comes in and already has some base of knowledge is sometimes helpful.
I mean, you said something that I really resonate with is that reviews are kind of like the new referral, right? And
Oh, yeah.
and I see it all the time with my clients is that you can do fantastic work for someone, like really knock it out of the park. And asking for that referral on Google is sometimes like pulling teeth. But man, if you have the slightest issue or hiccup along the way, it's so quick for them to vent and frustrate and share on the search engines. Like it sounds like for a lot of business owners, they're living and dying by the Google review or the Yelp review or the whatever it is. We really need to do as consumers kind of justice. And I shared this myself a few weeks ago with people, is that now for the longest time, business owners have been shut down, whether you're not the non-essential businesses have been completely shut down. But if you've done business with a non-essential company or an essential company, the biggest thank you that they could ever ask for is a Google review. And I feel like that's the one thing that anyone could possibly do today. If they've had service with Debt Relief Legal Clinic or Prime Media Consulting or anybody out there that owns a business, if you've done business with them, writing a good review about them is probably the nicest thing you can do to say thank you to them. And
It is truly one of the nicest things people can do. When I get an email in my inbox that says, "You received a review, click here to go read it," and it's like a 5-star, and it makes me smile. And then I go read it and I go, "Oh, I'm smiling even bigger now." And then I'm sharing it with my staff and I'm sharing it wherever I can share it, because it makes my day. It's great.
so what's the hardest thing about owning the business at Debt Relief Legal Clinic?
Being in charge.
Yes.
The hiring and firing and all of that. I've only had to fire somebody, I don't know, 3 times in my life, and it was hard every time. I think the first time I actually cried. It was my 40th birthday, so I consider that to be a breakdown.
Okay. You fired someone on your birthday. That was your birthday present to yourself.
It was justified. It was justified. But it was super hard, and I liked that person as a person, but yeah, it had to be done. And since then, I think I had 2 in the last year, which was kind of hard, but you get to a point where, this person is just not, does not belong on the bus, never mind in the right seat on the bus.
Right.
And you got to get rid of them because it hurts the whole business. I think that's probably one of the hardest things, but being the boss, I'm in charge, and I am in charge of and responsible for the income of other people.
Yeah.
So I have a duty, and that's really heavy. It really is.
Yeah. I mean,
and for clients too, not just staff, but clients' lives are in my hands. Well, their finances are in my hands, but it's their lives too, because if they're in a Chapter 13 payment plan, their life is a 3 to 5 year payment plan, and that's it's important to them, it's important to me, and I feel like I have a duty to them to keep them on track. And sometimes that makes me feel like a babysitter, most of the time not.
But what's nice is that you're a really, what's good about talking to you is that you're a real person. Is that like you're very salt of the earth, grounded. You're very stoic. You're very analytical, and you're someone that really tells it how it is. And I think that's just the nature of the industry that you're in. But what's interesting, what you said to you, is that you have the same issue that everyone else has, is time. For me, it's okay. I own my own company. I have a lot of work to do. But you know what? This sounds really good on Netflix. I'm going to watch this right now, and then I'll get to work, right? Ozarks is playing, and I really want to catch up on this season. But I also have a crap load of work to do. I mean, the time management of being your own boss, it sounds like, oh, that sounds great, how good. But it really can be frustrating too, because as a business owner, it's not just time management from this. It's, okay, after 5 o'clock, how late are you working? I mean, I see myself working at 10, 11, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning some nights, that some people may see me go into a movie, or some people may see me talking about a show or things like that, and they don't see how my day completely goes 24/7 with Prime Media, or the clients with Prime Media. And I try and find pockets of sanity versus the employee that has a schedule, and they work and then they don't work. They can turn and flip the switch off a lot easier than the business owner. So I appreciate that time management for you is kind of the same issue for me, although probably not as many movies on your end as it is mine.
Well, I'm actually physically in my office, so that helps. But we don't close until 5:30, and so, but because of this whole COVID-19 thing, and the fact that my husband is now working because he's been a stay-home dad until last summer, I've been taking over the cooking duties. So if my butt isn't out of here by 6 o'clock, dinner's going to be late, because I love the Instant Pot that I bought several weeks ago before this even happened. And I cook as many things as I can in it, but doggone it, you got to thaw the meat first. So anyway, yeah, I used to sit here until 8 or 9 o'clock at night because he was cooking, he was feeding the boys, he was taking one of them to jujitsu, or, whatever thing that they had to go to. Used to be Taekwondo. They've all got black belts of some degree in Taekwondo. And now my youngest, who's 16, is just doing jujitsu, but not now because of the Corona thing. So, he works till 7, and, oh, I forgot what I was saying. So he was in charge of all that. So nobody was really looking for, where's mom, what's for dinner? So I would sit here till 8 o'clock at night. Nobody really needed me for anything in those hours.
Right.
And that's actually a bad thing for life balance.
Yes.
Family life balance.
Yes.
So now I'm just getting, way more attention from the fam, and, luckily they think I'm a really great cook. So
hey, that's exciting. Well, it's the first time, right? They're not used to mom cooking.
Yeah. So there's definitely a benefit to getting out of here earlier, but that doesn't mean I don't hop on all of my apps and still respond to messages from my clients through my my server and various things like that, and just check email and things like that. But I actually look forward to my weekends and my evenings now.
So you said coronavirus. You brought up the C word. So let's talk about that a little bit. How has Corona impacted you currently? And what do you kind of foresee happening third quarter, fourth quarter, then going into 2021?
So currently, it's pulled me out of my lane and into the lane of you always wanted to really get into technology, didn't you? So, which is great. I love technology. So it has forced me to get into doing video conferencing, emailing things or uploading things to the server, getting everything electronically. What's been a challenge is my court will not accept electronic signatures. It doesn't matter what service it's from. We need to get wet signatures on filed documents. So we've had to kind of redo the way we're doing things. We have to send out signature pages well in advance of the signing appointment so that they're in my client's hands when we do the video conference. Governor Whitmer did extend our stay-at-home order. It was originally going until the 15th. And when she did that, when she extended to the 15th of May, I had Michael call everybody up who could not do the video conferencing and get everybody scheduled last week to come in and get their cases going. Then she extended it to the end of the month. And I said, I'm not rescheduling anybody. They need to file their cases, and this is not going to stop them from filing their cases. So we've been meeting with clients last week and this week. It's been very busy. I foresee going forward right now, because we have to wear face masks if we're near anybody, within however many enclosed areas. So I have to wear a face mask, and that's, it's hard to breathe with those things. I have great respect for medical personnel that have to do that, but they also get to take breaks between patients. So what I prefer is video conferencing if I can get clients to do it. Going forward, we'll be doing in-office and video conferencing. I'm going to encourage clients to do video conferencing as much as possible. And if we have to do in-office, fine, we can do in-office. I think that bankruptcy filings will probably be going up. And because, I think with what happened with the unemployment system and the extra pandemic unemployment compensation of $600 a week, I don't know if every state was getting that. I know Michigan does. It is only good until the end of July. So I still foresee that people will probably be having issues with credit. They're probably still going to have issues with, mortgages. They're going to have issues with their student loans to some extent because, anyway, I think that that's all going to increase bankruptcy filings potentially. Into next year, I think, it's hard to say. I was not around for bankruptcies in the 2008 thing, but I did see, I read up on, saw an article that talked about bankruptcy filings in the timing for all of that. There's the 2008 housing market bubble thing crashing. And I mean, I was here, but I wasn't doing bankruptcy. I was aware of it at the time. I just wasn't doing bankruptcy. The unemployment figures, it was like there was the crash, then there was the whole unemployment problem. And then much later, like right into 2010, 11, we're still having some bankruptcy filings. And I think that was probably the high for bankruptcy filings, because when I took this practice over, they've done nothing but go down since 2012, which is very interesting to me. And Michigan has been very slow to rebound with the bankruptcy filings. They're still going down. And I think I saw something the other day that said bankruptcy filings in the month of April were down 46% over last year, which is interesting. I think it was over last year. I don't think that was over March. I believe it was over last year. But I do see all that coming back, and I'm not really sure what to expect for the unemployment situation, because you have all these small businesses that are closing down. So those people aren't going to get those jobs back. And then you have the small businesses that do want to reopen, but their employees went somewhere else, so they're not going to come back. So I'm just kind of sitting back and kind of taking a look to see what's going to happen. I'm just watching.
Yeah. So I think it's very interesting that you bring up the point of housing market, things like that, because I think in your industry, we've been kind of propped up a little bit for whether it's the PPP loan, whether it's the unemployment. But once that all dries out, that's when stuff is really going to hit the fan. Because, I mean, without trying to get too much into politics, that's not what this show's about. there's only so much money that can be printed. And at
Yeah.
some point, someone is going to have to pay the bill for that. And I think that's when your services are going to be needed more than ever. But right now, you said that it's down 46% year over year. Let's just say, so it's not really a great statistic.
Mm.
But when you think about bad statistics or bad days, how do you kind of get through the bad days, the tough days at the office? Maybe you hear a really heart wrenching story, or deal with a heart wrenching case, or just brutally honest shit just doesn't work or shit's not working. How do you kind of get over the bad days?
Um, a bad day for me is when my technology fails. So, um, generally I can handle any client issues that we're going to have. I hate to say I pout on any kind of basis, frequently or infrequently, but if my technology doesn't work, I can be a downright baby, because that without my technology, I basically have nothing.
Right.
Um, other than a fountain pen and some paper and maybe a phone. But no, the technology absolutely has to work. And but bad days, even if I don't have any clients that day, I got plenty of work to do. So I don't know if I really have bad days.
Okay. Well, that's
Um,
good. My bad days consist
other than
throwing pillows and beating pillows and things like that. So I'm glad you're much more evolved than I am.
I don't know. I don't know. I might stomp my right foot or something if I need
I
that.
do
But
know
yeah.
I do know what can get you over a bad day, and that is a good pen. A good pen would get you over a really bad day. One of your things is
Yeah.
buying pens.
Oh yeah. I'm waiting for Goulet pens to ship my order. That's I no, I love fountain pens.
So what's
As a
kind of your escape outside of this and now your new love of cooking? What do you do to kind of escape the legal, the bankruptcy mindset? Or do you?
I don't think I really do. I will say I got a new mountain bike recently, and Monday on the holiday, we went for a family trail ride, and I thought I was going to die because the last time I went on a mountain bike trail was before my 16-year-old was born, and which I realized on Monday. And he and I made it one lap. And so we went home. My husband and my 20-year-old went another lap. And I think they did it in half the time that we all did it the first time, because by the time I got home, they were home within 10 minutes behind us, which I thought was rather interesting. But I foresee maybe some getting out on the mountain bike and doing some trail riding, because it's been, like I said, a very long time since I did that. And I really enjoyed that, just kind of going through the woods on the trails and listening to the birds and the frogs and the whatever else was out there in the woods. And maybe that, vegging in my hammock.
Nice.
I will say the last time I was in San Diego for a conference, I think was 2013, and I went into the little seaside village right behind the Hyatt, and there's a hammock shop there, and I bought a hammock, one of those Mayan hammocks, which is so fabulous, and I had it shipped home, and I love that thing. I keep it stored in a plastic box. I bring it out and hook it up when I'm going to use it, and I put it away in the box in the garage. It doesn't get ruined, and it's 2020.
That's awesome. So
Love that.
that's an unanticipated purchase produced so much good for years to come.
Yeah, yeah, and it
So
holds like two people.
okay, well hey, I'm not getting into that. That's a different show.
Well, mom and the boys, they want to all get in the hammock with me or whatever. It's not really great for two grown adults, but it's kind of fun to hang out and read with the boys or whatever.
So I mean, being in business for a couple days like you have, I mean, you've done a lot of things. You talked about marketing and advertising. You've done things online. You've done the phone books in the past, which is exciting. What is something that you did?
Super expensive.
Yeah, super expensive. What's something that you didn't anticipate and plan for that actually impacted your in some success in your business? Oh, that's a good one. I made her think.
Uh, I think the high level of referrals that I get from current former clients and other attorneys in my area who know me from my previous practice.
Right.
That is a large part of my practice, which is great. The referrals are great. Repeat clients are fabulous. That is such a note of faith, that
The tip of your cap.
I frequently will somebody in here that I'm talking to, and they filed a bankruptcy before, and I ask them, who was your previous attorney? Oh, I don't know. He was some guy over on whatever street. I'm like, wow, okay. No wonder they didn't go back to him. So, and I don't know, maybe some people just file bankruptcy and it's no big deal. Most of my clients, it's a big deal too. And when they refer us to friends or family, or even come back, I think it is really quite a compliment. And I really wasn't expecting that when I took over this practice.
I think from knowing you and knowing what you do with marketing a little bit, is you don't end at the end of the transaction.
Right.
And I think that's a tip of the cap to you, is that you have a constant stream of communication with clients, whether it's drip campaigns, whether it's newsletters that you send out. You stay in front of them, not overwhelmingly, but you
I hope not.
yes, you send out stuff so people know who you are. You kind of still relate to them, as opposed to the transaction's over and then I'll see you in next bankruptcy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the lessons that a small business owner can get from this, is that how do you take the initial call to the consultation, or in some cases estimates for other different businesses that are out there, to then have them accept you to be a client, or be the person that provides the service for you, to then do the transaction, to now the whole back end of once the fulfillment end is over. Like, I think that's a huge piece of the puzzle that most small business owners don't really emphasize in. And I know you being a very analytical person and into the details, that's something that you've really tried to hone in on, is how do I stay connected, stay top of mind, so when something happens, I can be connected to them. So I'm not the person who's like, oh, like you just said, oh, I don't remember who I used. I don't think that happened with you.
Right. Was there a question somewhere in that?
There wasn't really a question. It's just a tip of the cap to you. So take the compliment and love it.
All right. I will add to that, along with not remembering who their attorney was, in their previous case. I've had other clients say, well, I called my other attorney about this debt collector contacting me, and he said, well, your file is closed. I can't do anything for you. But my clients, if they contact me 2 years down the road after they got their discharge and they're getting contacted by a debt collector, I tell them, send me the letter if it's a letter, and I will send them a, go away or we're going to sue your butts letter. And usually that works. And I don't charge them for that, because they paid for a bankruptcy and a discharge, which they got. And, if that kind of behavior goes, if I send a letter and it gets ignored, well, then I might have to take some action. And most of the time, if I take action on that and it gets to court, they're going to pay my attorney fees, the bad guy client, because my client didn't do anything wrong. So I tell people, if something happens and something comes up, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, come back to me and tell me, and we will deal with it. We'll talk about it. And I'm not going to charge you for that. And, attorneys that, they get the discharge, they send a closing letter, if they even send a closing letter. Some attorneys don't even bother with that. They close their file and they're done. And I just think that's a huge disservice to clients. And I will, always be a resource for clients. And if, they call up in a year and say, hey, what was that information that you had about, X? I'll shoot them off another email with the same information. Because to me, shooting off an email doesn't take any time. And so when I use things, I use MailChimp, and I have constant contact or newsletter that goes out. It doesn't have a very high open rate, but whatever, it's there. If people want to unsubscribe from it, they will. There's a whole lot of people that get my newsletter and very, like, what's the open rate? Like 20% or something?
That's
Whatever.
good though. That's
It's
good.
there. I know. Okay, fine. It might be okay. But I provide information to people. When this whole COVID thing started, I was very quick to go into MailChimp and create an email campaign to send to everybody, former clients, current clients, and leads, because I thought it was super great information to be able to push out there for people. The unemployment information, I sent an email that had a link and it had some instructions, a little bit about it, and then a link to the website for additional information, because I think that that's valuable. You got to have resources out there that are willing to provide information to you. Now, there is a level of that's just ridiculous when I get those kinds of, here's what we're doing about COVID from United Airlines and Hyatt and American Airlines and every airline I've ever been on in my life. I don't care. I'm not flying anytime soon, but whatever. I just delete those. I don't unsubscribe. I just delete them. But to me, the information I was sending out was information that my clients, leads, people need to know about, not what we're doing about it, other than we're still here and we're doing things by video.
Yeah.
But in case you need information about unemployment or, holding off your car payment for 3 months because there was some car payment relief thing that was going on. And, the whole mortgage thing, I don't think I sent one on that because I think you get bit in the rear end on that whole mortgage forbearance thing. But anyway, I do like to be a resource for clients. And then, they might call me back in 2 years and say, hey, I need to file divorce. Did you have a referral for a divorce attorney that you might have mentioned way back when? Yeah, here at so-and-so, shoot them off an email real quick. So it's nice when people stay in contact with me.
So, and going, the natural progression is the next question I would say here is, what do you feel, we're talking about things you're doing right. What do you feel are your biggest strengths as a leader at Debt Relief Legal Clinic?
Biggest strengths? My willingness to take in as much information about proper leadership as possible. A lot of people don't who are in leadership roles. And I do subscribe to some Dave Ramsey Entre Leadership information and resources. I think those are fabulous. If anybody asks me for that information, I refer it over to them as well. Being detail oriented and knowing how to actually do accounting and keeping track of my finances is really important, because if I can't do that, how can I be a good leader? I think running your business with integrity is one of the most important things that you can do for your staff and your clients or customers, because if you don't, you'll be out of business.
Right.
And possibly in trouble with people.
Yes.
And, if you can't run your business with integrity, how is anybody supposed to be able to trust you to handle their affairs for them?
So what are the things that you're still working on? I mean, these are the things you're good at. What, as a leader, what are the things that you feel like I need to brush up a little bit for the rest of 2020?
Staying connected to Ramsey Entre Leadership. For about everybody, time management, staying on task. I thought it was interesting that with the COVID-19, the lockdown, I know it's called a stay home, stay safe, but it's a lockdown as far as I'm concerned. That's how I feel.
Uh-huh.
Call it very loosely, the lockdown. I think a lot of people do. I was expecting to get caught up on a little stack of my inbox that I have here, but no, I managed to find all kinds of other things like, webinars about how to function in the COVID-19 world. And oh my God, webinars coming out my ears since the middle of March. But it's also gotten me used to using Zoom, which is great. I hate GoToMeeting, but anyway. I've gotten caught up on a few things. I was kind of surprised about some of the things that actually came up that I had to deal with, and pleasantly surprised with some of the things I did not have to deal with, because we're going to handle them after this is over, when we kind of have something we can focus on. It's not a moving target, like being unemployed for how long or whatever. For me, it's just keeping my desk clear and staying focused on things, but I'm getting there.
All right. One of the things that I see as somebody who has a lot of say in my meetings with them, I'm very detail oriented. I'm very whatever is the analysis paralysis by analysis, right? Is that sometimes people that are very detailed get stuck on the details and they just don't know how to get over the next phase. And I'm the complete like that's the big thing about my wife and I is that she's very detail oriented and I don't care about the details. I just go. And it's so interesting as someone that a husband and a wife that owns a business together on how we have to find a balance. And I don't really think there are going to be too many people. I don't know if you see this in your work life as well. Like your employees, are they very detail oriented like you, or are they a little bit more free spirited to have more of a balance in the business, or are they all kind of A type personalities, very detailed?
Well, when Lynette was here, my mom, she's very detail oriented. I will say there are other staff people that have not been quite as detail oriented and find fault with my detail orientation, but detailed enough. So, I am a firstborn Capricorn, so that's probably my fault. But I, yeah, I've had people that just what's a detail, and they're not here anymore because we really
Well,
we're detail orientation.
You're in a business that the details really do matter.
They do.
And so I get that. But I mean, what do you think that what mistakes, like areas of opportunity, this is kind of the area that we've been discussing. What are the mistakes that you see business owners making, whether it's in your industry or outside of your industry? I mean, the kind of the interesting thing about talking to you on this show is that you deal with people that have made mistakes every single day, whether it's the fault of their own or whether it's an accumulation of years of mistakes or improper planning or things like that. What are some of the mistakes that you see most business owners making, whether it's financial related or just business related?
Not keeping good books. I've dealt with more on a client basis. I mean, I don't know what other businesses that I deal with are doing for keeping books, but with clients who are self-employed, I ask them for, with clients that are work for someone else and they're getting wages that, I need 6 months of pay statements. If you're self-employed, I need 6 months worth of profit and loss statements. Well, what's that? Okay. That's interesting. So how do you keep track of your income? Well, my money just goes into my account. Okay, is that separated from you have a business account and a personal account? Oh no, it all goes into my personal account. Okay, great. We may have to talk about that, but it's not my job to train you on how to run your business, but perhaps if you were running your business properly, you wouldn't be having some of the problems that you're having. I'm not saying that personal debt is caused by bad business practices, but there are a lot of people that are, quote unquote, self-employed that they just run everything through their personal account and they're buying groceries and gas and everything. And they don't, I don't know, my accountant just does it every year, when they do my taxes. I'm like, okay, that sounds like a nightmare. I do my own books. I do not I have a bookkeeper who comes in and does quarterly reports, but that's all she does. I do my books. I enter all of my information in and I present it all very neatly to my CPA, who then says, why do you have me do your taxes? So, because it's fun, and I'm not the CPA, but I really think that you have to have excellent ability to keep track of your books, whether it's a handwritten ledger, which I just don't even understand, or QuickBooks or something like that. You have to be able to do that so that you can run reports and see how your business is doing. Because if you don't know how your business is doing, how can you come up with a plan for where you want to go with your business? And if you don't have a plan for where you want to go with your business, why are you in business?
I 100% agree that the bookkeeper is a huge thing, and knowing your money is a huge thing of where things are going for you. I would say that I truly feel you probably could do your own taxes yourself. You just like the Atta girls. that you go in there. You like the gold star that you probably would get. I could picture you as a kid who like you loved the check marks and you loved the gold star. I'm going to send you a bunch of gold stars in the mail in the next couple of weeks. You're going to get them.
I do like the gold stars, but I also like the fact that he's a CPA and he knows how to actually save me money where I might not have found something in
Yes.
TurboTax.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. And I will pay him for that. And I do pay him for that every stinking year. And I do it gladly because he saves me money.
I'm the same way. Like I'm not as detailed as you are. I think that's pretty apparent for people that have known me for a while. I learned as a business owner, and I don't know if people can kind of get this, is I know what I'm good at and I know what I struggle with. And I'm the type of person where I don't want to take the time and invest the time in trying to figure out what I struggle with to get better at when I can trade the dollars to find an expert to do it, like a bookkeeper or an accountant or things like that. And so I think one of the things that I see as a challenge that small business owners come with is that they try and do so many things themselves when their best time they're using other things for peak selling time or peak operating time or peak fulfillment time with mundane things or mundane tasks that could be used for other people's gifts. And I appreciate the fact that you can do way more than I can because 10 sec more than the only thing I know about QuickBooks is my login and password, and that's the only give to my bookkeeper. Because I would just get lost in the numbers. My wife is the carbon copy of you, which is very similar to my mother-in-law, who is very, very detailed oriented. And it's just the nature of the beast, and I think that's why you kind of opposite. I'm guessing your husband isn't the same way as you. I'm guessing he's a complete opposite.
No, I married a lastborn.
Yes, yeah. Congratulations. Absolutely. So, I mean, what's kind of the next thing? If you had to look, we're kind of getting to the end of the interview. What's the next thing that you see as Debt Relief Legal Clinic trying to accomplish for the last half of 2020 and kind of game planning for 2021? Where are you seeing things going?
What a fabulous question. Student loans are near and dear to my heart. And so I'm actually, I've got about 3 or 4 cases that I'm going to be filing to seek discharge in bankruptcy under the hardship rules. And one of the things I did want to point out, a lot of people don't realize this, and maybe they do now, but the CARES Act they said, all federal loans are going to get 0% interest and automatically be deferred or forbear, whatever, through the end of September. Well, that's only Department of Education loans, so direct loans. And so if, you're like me, who had loans from way back in 90, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then, before the direct loan program, and they were, backed, by somebody else, not direct loans. They're federal family education loans, and then consolidated them in 2002. They still aren't with the Department of Ed, and those loans do not qualify for that treatment. Luckily, yes, I still have a student loan, large student loan. And anyway, I was in the process of moving those over to Department of Ed into a new consolidation because I was sick of Navient. So now they're with Nelnet. But I was in the process of doing that when this whole thing happened. And so now they're with Department of Ed, and I'm getting 0% interest through the end of September. And I am hammering on those loans. So what people need to understand is, this is probably not the time to not pay on them if they're getting 0% interest. And if they're not, they don't have their loans with Department of Ed, they probably need to move them over consolidate them. They could still end up with the same servicer, but they could consolidate them into Department of Ed loans and get some of this treatment. And if they're getting 0%, they should be paying as much as they possibly can on these loans if they're capable of doing that. But so I'm starting to I'm kind of already known to specialize with student loans because there's not a lot you can do with student loans in bankruptcy, but I do. And I haven't ever tried to get them discharged, but I'm going to. And this is the year for that. And I actually look forward to maybe CARES Act Part 2, where they actually extend the 0% into next year. That would be fabulous for a lot of people, not just me. But a lot of attorneys don't know what you can do with student loans. And there are, one or two attorneys around town that, what, I can't deal with your student loans, call Kristen, go to debt relief, and she can do something with them in a chapter 13 or whatever. So that's kind of, what I'm kind of focusing on for the rest of this year and into next year. I think I'm going to take a little bit of a step back from dealing with mortgage issues specifically, and focus on student loans, because the student loan problem is a huge problem. Was it 1.6 trillion in student loans? And part of that is private student loans. So part of that is dealing with getting discharges for private student loans that don't really fall under the exception to discharge under the bankruptcy code. And that can happen. I'm just hoping it can happen in my district.
So if people wanted to reach out to you, I know we have your phone number and website on the bottom of the screen. Tell us again who you are, what you do, areas that you serve.
Well, okay. So I am Kristen Krol. I am formerly of the Krol Law Firm. I still kind of have that out there, but it's the Debt Relief Legal Clinic. And the practice that I took over was the Debt Relief Legal Clinic of Michigan, which has been around since 1980. So I actually feel a huge responsibility and obligation to carry that name forward and treat Greg Smith's clients as well as he did. And I think I've succeeded in doing that so far. Did I answer your question?
So you're out of Michigan. Yeah. You're in Lansing, Michigan, right?
Yeah, we're in Lansing on the west side near the Lansing Mall, which may not be here much longer. I don't know. It's practically empty. And on West Saginaw Highway, where it's always been since 1980. And I service primarily the Tri-County Lansing area, which is Ingham, Clinton, and Eaton counties. So most of my court hearings are held here in Lansing, which is kind of nice. It's real close by. There's also hearings held in Grand Rapids. So I may venture over. I may get some clients over in Ionia County or, that direction west, and end up going to a hearing in Grand Rapids. But most of the time I'm here in Lansing.
And I hear that people in the Flint, not the Flint, the Midland, the Saginaw, that area may be needing some services pretty soon. That whole mess is so sad to see on the news.
I now understand why you asked me that question, because I don't watch the news.
Oh.
And it was probably Monday. I think it was Monday. My son actually mentioned it to me, and I said, "What are you talking about?" So he sent me a video. He said, "Did you see the video of the drone flying over Midland?" I'm like, why? So I now know what's going on there. So,
yes.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of people, sadly, who are going to need some services up in that area. I can handle cases up there, but those cases are probably going to be heard in Bay City. It's a long drive for me, but, I may very well have, former clients up in that area. And that usually is what pulls me into a farther away court than I'm used to. I don't mind driving to Bay City. I can stop at Birch Run on the way back.
That's right. The outlet mall is amazing there. I get my Van Heusen shirts there. So again, so you serve the Lansing, Michigan area. I want to thank you so much for. I know this was we tried to do this a couple weeks ago. And it just didn't work out schedule wise. You're just because you're in such demand, which is fantastic. And I hope that people in the Lansing area, if they need debt relief help, they call Kristen at Debt Relief Legal Clinic. Chapter 7 bankruptcies, Chapter 13 bankruptcies, student loan debt, credit card debt, all that stuff. If you want to help with the debt management program, I know she can help you, kind of guide you along the way with that too. She'll get you in touch with Dave Ramsey himself probably. Thank you so much.
Great guy.
Yes. I know you've met him. So,
I have met Dave and Sharon.
That's right. So thank you so much for joining me. today. Hopefully, it wasn't as bad as I might have made it seem when I was talking about dragging you onto the show and away from your busy day. But thank you so much for your time, and I can't wait to see what happens with you for the rest of 2020 and going into 2021. So we will talk to you later. Next week, we'll dive into more BS. We are going to have a life and health coach, nutritionist, talk to us named Krol, and she's based out in Southern California. And we're going to dive into more BS. So we'll talk to you guys later.